going to start the stream now.
Okay, sounds good.
Starting live. Yay!
Here we are. Can you link me so I can... actually, I don't need you to link me. You're not my dad. Do you want to be my dad? My dad didn't show up to my baseball games when I was a youngin', so...
Yeah, it's probably because you suck at baseball.
I was definitely a large disappointment to this man for the majority of my life. Are we up?
Reset.
Turtle. We got Turtle in the house. Big T is what I like to call him. That's not what I call him. I don't call him anything. I call him Turtle. That's his name. Big Teasy. People didn't like when I did that joke. I don't remember what I said.
JTZ?
Something like that, yeah.
Were they like, oh, cringe, dance game, Papega? That's what they said.
Something along those lines, yes. How do you know it's me? Are you stalking me? Oh my god. How would I not know it's you? I can tell that it's you by the way that you fucking write. I can tell. All right, let's look up some questions because we got some questions from the weekend here.
Yeah.
You know, I look at myself in this this Patreon. What am I talking about? Discord, and I'm like, boy, I'm ugly. And then I look at myself on the stream, and it has me flipped, and I look so much better flipped than I do. Look at this. Have you Lincoln's face where it's flipped and it just looks fucking ridiculous?
That's funny.
I'm telling you, man. I wish I could just flip myself in real life. That would be great. I'd be set. All right, how do I get myself off the screen?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream.
Hello, fam.
Let me know when you have the question, and I will do the intro so we can.
Okay, let's see. Where did we start here? So I want to get this shit off my screen where I don't want it to show myself because it's covering the questions. Discord, please. Oh, I can move it. Okay, cool. I'll move it up there. Easier to ignore. Okay. All right, we have questions.
Okay. So welcome everyone to Alchemy Answers episode 19. Getting close to 20. That's a pretty big number. That shows consistency and dedication on our part and on your parts for submitting questions week after week. Shows that you actually want to learn about Dota. So thank you for doing that. And with that being said, if you want to watch this on YouTube, it'll be up probably tomorrow in slightly edited form. If you want to listen to it, it'll be on our anchor.fm podcast, which will also be linked in the description of the YouTube video. So thanks for tuning in, and let's go ahead and get into the questions by our patrons. And if we have some time at the end, we'll take questions from chat as well.
Okay, so we have Church. He asked, what do we think of a support bat? He's strong in lane, extra strong at level 2. Tranquils plus Lace plus Drums is enough to get your hero online. I think he works in the role well because Bat doesn't want to build stuff like Crimson and Vlad's Thoughts. I guess I'll take this one to start because I'm an offlaner and a
bat player.
And a bat player. So Bat's like typically an offlaner, obviously, but yeah, I really like it in a support role. I think I recently saw, I believe it was J-Storm that was playing against Complexity that played the Bat in the support role to counter a PA, and then Complexity flipped it around and they played the Bat, and Monkeys Forever is playing Bat as a support against a PA as well. And in both games, it looked really, really good because, like you said, Bat at level 2 is incredibly strong just due to the stacking nature of his sticky napalm, and there are a lot of heroes that you completely obliterate in the laning stage, such as PA, Terrorblade, heroes that you really don't want to come online and have a good early game, but there aren't that many offlaners that are great at dealing with them. In fact, a reason that a lot of these heroes are in the meta is because they are particularly potent versus the popular offlaners, or at the very least, Terrorblade, for example, and PA can come back if they have a rough lane against offlaners. Like you have teams picking offlaners, teams picking carries, and obviously there's going to be, depending on the pick order, certain heroes that are going to do fine in those matchups. Whereas if you throw a random bat in there, then you have somebody who like counters a bat. You can have the bat in the laning stage completely obliterate a hero without the risk of having the bat countered in the game, because it doesn't matter if you counter a support. So I think that's a really good role for him. And typically when it comes to a lot of these like very hard counter, I don't want to call them cheese heroes, but it's like a niche pick where if you pick it in the right scenario, it completely hard counters heroes. I think these heroes are amazing in the support role because, or heroes that like there's a risk of them getting hard countered. Like for instance, if an enemy team, this is way back in like the Leviathan days, but if the enemy team picked a bunch of counters to Pudge, I would just kind of play it as a support, and Nusham would kind of take the farming role, because it's like you want to focus so much on countering this specialty hero and letting it through the draft. Well, then you're going to be punished by virtue of you're countering a support. And that's actually why in my recent video about hardest counters in the game, I didn't put in like Sky versus Pugna, because Sky is typically a support. And I think if you're picking an entire draft to counter a Skywrath mage, he'll have a bad game, but he'll still do what he does in the early game as a support. And then you're countering a support. So you're basically rooting your draft in order to counter a hero that doesn't matter that much, other than in the early game where he's already going to be effective. So yeah, in essence, I really do like Bat as a support. I think that's a great role for him.
And do you prefer it as a 4 or a 5? What do you think is better?
I would say you literally just lane it. It's like it's a laning pick. You would just pick and put it in whatever role that is like best in the game. Like for instance, if
it gets a bunch of kills early, then it kind of becomes a 4. If it has a terrible laning stage or whatever, by picking it to win the lane, you end up kind of just going for the 5. If you are facing a bunch of Lincoln spheres or something like that, then you kind of just adapt and you do whatever you can in the game.
Right, if you're against like Slarks and PLs and stuff like that, just play it as a 5 and use it in the lane to win the lane. It's still going to do what it does, but if they don't pick bat counters, then it can be a 4 and be really effective. But it doesn't really matter, because I think he can do both, essentially.
Right, and I probably have never played bat ever. Maybe in Dota 1 I played it, but I've never played bat, and so I don't have a whole lot to add about bat specifically, but we are in a place in Dota where people are picking support Luna, just because it does a job that a support can do, which is to provide a lot of auras. The Luna aura is incredibly good, and it's incredibly good with or without farm. So the fact that we can be picking these heroes that traditionally have never played in any other role as supports means that people are kind of coming out of their comfort zone and adapting and just kind of experimenting more. So sure, play whatever you want as support. And I think support in particular is probably the most versatile role, just because, like,
it doesn't matter
if you have a tool, if you have tools that are your spells, then it doesn't really matter how much farm you have.
Yeah. I think a lot of spells in Dota are getting, like, heroes that have really boring and shit spells are getting buffed to be, like, more interesting. So
yeah,
I think just because Dota has become more interesting of a game and a more well-designed game over the years as things have progressed, more and more heroes are open to the support role, just because more and more heroes aren't going to be useless and boring in the early game, because that's just not fun gameplay. But that also lends itself to like any hero being a viable support. I think also like just as long as jobs are being done in a game, it doesn't really matter what heroes you have like in whatever role. Like as long as there are specific jobs that need to be done, you need a pusher, you need late game. It doesn't matter if you have 5 carries and a good early game, or 5 like supports, but they all happen to scale pretty well in a way that's not traditional like carries. Like let's say you have like Tinkers and heroes like that. You don't need a hard carry on your team. Like as long as the job of carrying in the late game is done, maybe because you counter their heroes, that's all that really matters. Is are the jobs done? So like with bat support, it's just, can I do a job of a support in this game? Okay, then on top of that, consider like what else do I offer? For instance, like people are picking bat to counter the laning stage right now, so that's obviously a bonus. But anyway,
let's take the next question.
So we got RFX has a few questions. Are signs pointing to us seeing a tri-lane meta, or is it still too early to tell? So in competitive, like in the Chongqing Major. Jesus, it was like a lot of tri-laning that was happening. I think there was this trend where people were playing in a tri-lane just to start, and then people, as a result of that, were like kind of testing, okay, how long can I stay in this lane and keep punishing this lane, and it just started to look pretty good. And then it got to the point where people were literally just like straight tri-laning and seeing how it felt, and mostly it was aggro tri-lanes against like a carry that they really wanted to shut down, or in a situation where they know that their safe lane would beat the offlaner solo. That's always a good scenario. Or it would be a defensive tri-lane if the offlaner really needed to be dealt with. And if like for instance against Beastmaster, that's how people were dealing with Beastmaster, because that hero in a 2v2 will just obliterate, or at least at that time pre-nerf. I still think he's really good, but pre-nerf, he was really hard to deal with, and people were like, all right, fuck this hero. We're just gonna tri-lane against him. So yeah, I think tri-lanes are definitely completely viable. I would say it's like probably 50-50 right now, which is different from how Dota's been for years. It's been dual lane for so long. So I'm very happy that it's 50-50, because, you know, personally as an offlaner, that gives me a lot of versatility in the role that I get to play these solo offlane scenarios, which I have been finding more fun than the 2v2, just because I'm so sick of focusing on creeps. You know what I mean? I'd rather play that kind of like
mess with people, run around,
right? Fuck with people. It's like kind of like a stealth game almost, where you're just trying to sneak around and do these little cheeky plays. Like, that's feeling more fun to me right now. So I like that it's 50-50 and leaning towards tri-laning.
Yeah, I think that we even saw sort of like the adaptation come full circle with the tri-lanes, where it was basically, like you said, exclusively aggro tri-lanes being run, and it would be like, I don't know, a PA or a Terrorblade plus 2 supports, and then teams just started putting their offlane hero in the safe lane, which actually makes a lot of sense, because I think for the last 6 months or so, we've been basically calling the safe lane the off lane, because it's usually the lane that's supposed to lose anyway. So it's kind of just natural that you would then start putting your offlaner, who's the hero that you don't really care that much about having a good laning stage, in the safe lane, and then let them just, you know, play the off lane in a different lane, basically.
Does make sense. People tried that at the start of the patch too, but the math just like didn't quite work out. It just didn't feel that great. But obviously, like as the meta changes, as the heroes change, as the patches come out, like things that were bad will eventually become good. And I do want to say that, like, when it comes to at least high rated pubs, the ones that I've played on my Smurf, like relatively high rated pubs, I should say, post calibration, it does seem like there is the occasional tri-lane, so it seems to be trickling down, and it eventually will be in this sort of 50-50 meta that we see in competitive. But like even like Divine and Immortal games that I'm getting, it's probably like 10% of the games, 20% there's a tri-lane, but mostly it's dual lanes. But that'll trickle down to Immortal, then that'll trickle down to Divine, then that'll trickle down to like all of the other brackets eventually.
I just saw one question in chat that I wanted to answer, which is, when do we start streaming? All of our streams generally start at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So we've been streaming for 16 minutes or so. And those streams are Alchemy Answers every Tuesday, replay review every Thursday. We did another replay review on Monday, and we might have some other shows coming up as well that we're talking about. So 6 p.m. PST tends to be the general start time for every single one.
Yep. RFX says, how are you two so damn handsome? I didn't want to skip over that question because it's a meme question, and I feel like it wouldn't be nice for RFX to write in a meme there and just have me completely ignore it. But then I was also considering, is it conceited to like read that question and actually read it on stream? But I was leaning towards I'm going to read it. So how are we so damn handsome? Lots of sleep. I sleep for about 14 hours to 20 per day. So I just woke up, and I'm probably going to go sleep in another 2 to 3 hours from now.
So the thing is generally there's these things called genes that make up a human being, and
oh, I was hoping you'd keep going with it. And just
well, you shouldn't have laughed, because
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. That's not good, like comedy. Like if you're doing some deadpan shit, I should be sitting here agreeing with you.
Yeah, exactly.
There's actually a word for it, like the roll, like the, I don't know, mirror or like you're supposed to bounce stuff off of me. I'm supposed to kind of agree.
The
anyway,
deadpan fluffer. I needed a fluffer there.
You did need a fluffer, and I couldn't hold it in, man. I was just laughing because I'm like, oh man, I know where he's going with this. This is gonna be funny, and then I laughed, and fuck, I just ruined everything. This is just the story of my life. Just like get on a Dota team, just like laugh too much, just fucking ruin everything.
By the way, you got a shout out on Grand stream during the his cast of the Dream League qualifiers. He was talking about Team Red with Franz stopping CC&C from going to TI by beating.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that feels bad, man. Well, I didn't know how to feel about that at the moment, man. It was we lost everything, but beat the team that went undefeated. I feel bad for Francis because he was just coming off of like Leviathan, so I just played with him for so long. So it's like, oh man, my boy is gonna be at TI. But yeah, sorry about that, Francis. Anyway, all right, we'll continue. This has been a long comedic tangent. Additionally, if I'm playing with a team in a league or 5 stacking, does it make sense to approach the game with a specific game plan or major objective, maybe specifically around the players' skill sets and hero pools? Or should we literally just go with the flow and try to plug and play strats before and during games? I fucking love this question because I can't have like a 100% answer to it, and I know that it's like it sucks for me to like not be able to get specific about it, but it's just because like depending on the team, the captain, it could be whatever, you know. I can say that like in my competitive experience, knowing, you know, like when I'm like scrimming against like the complexity, when complexity is good, or the didn't really scrim EG much, but like scrimming against the teams that were like actually good. My teams were okay, but scrimming against the teams that actually had like a lot of success, I can tell you that like some of the captains, like Swindlemelons, for example, would completely have a strat for the game and execute it exactly the same, like every single game to a T, and everybody would just listen to him. Other teams, like Liquid, for example, they try to play like it's a pub. Like they literally just play their heroes and basically just like
that's not
play as if
true,
they're
though.
Friends playing a pub.
It's not true, like, because remember at TI7 when Liquid had that coddle strategy that they just used over and over, and it was like, okay, we're gonna make chaos while GH farms the 4 staff and the eggs, and then we're gonna push high ground at 16 to 18 minutes every single game.
Sure, but that's what GH does in pubs on coddle, though.
True, but the point is that what you were saying is that there is no real answer to this, because it depends. Yeah. It depends on what you guys are good at, and you need to kind of figure that out. I do like this question as well because it's not a solo queue question. Most of the stuff that we get is like, what's good in solo queue? But you know, Dota's a team game, and I think that it's way more fun when you play as a stack generally. So I think
I really wish that there was some sort of party, like serious party ranked. I really think that the game would be a lot better.
Like a clan system or something like that would be super cool, because people would actually care about that.
For sure.
But to answer the question from my perspective, I think that you guys should try out a few things. Try out having a strategy that you guys really like. Run it a few times, see how it works. If it gets boring or if you guys are getting destroyed, then maybe switch it up. And like, I mean, you guys are playing a stack. You're playing in some, you know, amateur leagues and stuff like that. You know, it's fine to talk about it. Like, don't be afraid to like treat a Dota team like an actual team in a sport. Like, you guys are allowed to talk about your strategies.
Yeah, you want to win. You don't want to fucking suck.
It's not
like it doesn't.
Don't be afraid just because it's a video game to like, you know, take it seriously. It's okay. Like we all.
We're that generation, man.
Yeah.
We're that generation where it's like gaming is starting to become like sport. You would never think that somebody taking their like, you know, soccer team or whatever seriously is like some weird degenerate thing, but in gaming it's like, oh my god, these losers. We're at that weird point where like gaming is just becoming mainstream. Like we have one mainstream gaming celebrity, it's fucking Ninja. He's representing all of us to like the mainstream public. Yeah. But, you know, in some day there's going to be like all sorts of athletes and stuff that the mainstream is going to know, and you putting a bunch of effort into like an amateur team is not going to be like weird. But in any case, like I do, you actually kind of maybe think of a sort of point, but what Donnie was saying I think is really important, where like it's really important that you are just trying different things. That is the most important thing, because every single team has like a different groove that they can get into. But the most important consistent thing across teams is that you are constantly trying to improve the way that you're playing. And even if you're like fucking yourself over in that attempt to improve, like for instance, if you say, okay, guys, we need a strong captain. I'm just going to take the reins, tell everybody what to do. That might fail miserably. That might be successful. Even if you do that and it's successful, you might want to add some stuff to it. All right, you're going to help me by talking during the draft. All right, that guy says some dumb shit, ruins a bunch of drafts. Your drafts suck. Take that thing away. Don't do that anymore. Add something else. All right, we're going to be I'm going to be less vocal in the early game, and then somebody else is going to also contribute to early game, maybe the supports. And like you basically just need to try shit, understand that in the attempts to change the dynamic of the team, you're going to be worse temporarily. Give it enough time to try to like kind of sink in and actually have an effect, and then it might have a positive effect and it might have a negative effect. But the most important thing in getting better and finding your formula, your style, is trying things and really paying attention to like what's working and what isn't. Try to look at it like objectively, and you don't want to be like results based. You want to like watch games and be like, did we do better in this respect in this game? Okay, did this fuck us over in any way? Like that's kind of how you want to look at it. And I would say that generally, like, this is more anecdotal, but generally teams will have like a certain set of strategies where it's like basically you'll have a certain thing that you're good at and like you want to capitalize on that. We're a really good early game team. Let's pick good lanes and then we'll just see where we can go from there. Like it's nice to have a starting position that's kind of just like, what do you all like? What do you enjoy about the game? Like, what could you see yourself investing time into making that your specific niche? Like if you really like fighting, if you really like being early game, if you really like going late game, like you can just
interrupt you there for a sec because
okay,
we're talking about teams a lot here, but all of this can apply to you in your solo games as well. Like I think that
that's true. That's true.
One of the big questions that we always get, and we get it like every week and in every single video, is, you know, what role should I play? What hero should I play? Like, just try stuff out. Like, try being the captain for a game. Try using your mic incessantly for like 3 or 4 games. If people listen to you because you make good calls, maybe all of a sudden you discover that you should be leading your team in these pubs. If people flame you, if people don't listen to you, then maybe you can go back to playing like your carry style where you don't really make any calls until you have a bunch of farm and you win the game that way. Try playing mid. Maybe you are naturally a very good like tempo setter / like number 2 carry, and that's your role. The point is like, don't just ask us, don't ask your friends what you should do. Just try stuff. Don't be afraid to fail, and that way you're actually going to learn what you're good at. You know, it took me several thousand games to really realize that I am way better at playing support than any other role in the game.
I constantly realize that about offlane when I try to play other roles. It's like this role is made for me, man. Like I went like okay, so I've played on Smurfs before in Divine, and I actually think Divine is like way harder to win than Immortal because like Divine games are totally chaos. It's just a different environment. And what I've been doing on this Smurf this time around to calibrate is just like I'm at my mother-in-law's. The patch just came out. I'm super excited about Dota, and I just want to fucking play. And I didn't care if I was going to win or lose, so I was playing offlane because that's just the role that I most enjoy. I don't care that I have bad ping. I don't care that I'm probably going to lose. And I went 8-2. Like I have like an 80% win rate on this Divine account, and I could not for the life of me win in Divine on a Smurf before. Like I had a 20% win rate or something like that playing on this Divine Smurf for weeks. Probably like 4 or 5 months ago, and this was like I had good ping. I was playing professionally. I had no excuse. I could not play Divine. You know why it was? I was playing fucking mid. I was like, all right, these guys are Divine. I'm way better than them. I'm gonna pick Alchemist and solo carry the game. I couldn't do it. I actually am so bad at these other roles that I can't even play them in a bracket that's like 2,000 MMR below mine. Like I cannot do it. But then when I played on this Smurf and I just played offlane, even though I have a shitty situation in terms of the internet, and I didn't really care. I was randoming. I was just like picking Necrophos because I really wanted to play Necro. I have won like almost every game, and the games that I lost, I think I ended up doing like the most hero damage on both teams, and there was like a feeder on my team or something like that. Like the games have been going great for me in the same bracket I was losing in because I'm picking offlane, even though it's a lot harder for me to play it from here. So it's like there are certain roles that are going to be suited for you, and you play so much Dota that it's really hard to tell that like you're losing because you're playing mid. And that's why you have to change things, because it's like if you don't change anything things might not get worse, but they won't get better. So you have to change things and risk things getting worse, because it's like, I know it's not shocking to say that like changing things will potentially change things. It's like, obviously, you know, but a lot of people will just sit and do the same thing over and over on Dota and not get better. And it's like, well, yeah, because there are no changes happening. You just have to make a change, you know, even if it's like your role. Anyway.
Yeah, I got forced to play mid today in one of my calibration games because literally nobody was picking it. All the other things got picked, and I was like, I actually haven't played mid in like 2 years. What am I supposed to do here?
Dude, I get shit stomped by like ancient players in mid. I cannot. I remember I was
bad.
I think I've coached like Turtle. I've coached like a couple of other like Patreon boys. And I get asked this question a lot when I'm 1v1ing them in mid. They're like, "You're fucking around, right?" And it's like, no, I'm not. I'm not fucking around. I just suck.
Oh no!
Because it's like, you know, they're like 3-4K MMR, and I'm like 6-7K. I should, technically speaking, it's, you know, you should like own, but not. I mean, I'm an offlane. I don't fucking know how to mid.
Yeah, you're used to like not getting every creep, and so like, you know,
right. I'm used to like trading harass and like focusing on regen and stuff like that, and doing very side lane things. Like I remember Turtle almost killed me in like a 1v1. I think it was like a favorable 1v1. So it was like SF versus Invoker or something. He almost killed me.
All right, let's go on to the next question. We'll take like 2-3 more, and then maybe like a chat for like the last 5-10 minutes.
Okay. So, Arctic Wolf says, who's the best position 5 support in this patch? Also, as a position 5, what is the best way to deal with Bristleback mid to late game? All right, Bristleback question, very simple. Ignore that fucker. Like, he doesn't do anything if you just ignore him. Get Yule Scepters, kite him, ignore him. Fight away from him. Get a hero that will just completely obliterate him, like an Outworld Devourer. Like, just ignore that hero. Hitting that hero... Yeah, the Spirit Vessel, Silver Edge. There's a lot to deal with that hero. I don't think Bristle is as a big bad of a wolf and hero as like people make it seem to. But who do you think the best position 5 support is this patch? I'm still a little like, let me go to the Dream League and check it out. If you have an answer for that.
The pros would say Lich. Lich is basically being picked every single game.
That's what I would say too, but he got nerfed a little bit, so. That
being said, Dazzle is also being banned a lot. I would say, I don't know, Dazzle's also kind of an interesting case because it is being played like 3, mid, 4, 5, etc. But the most reliable position 5 has definitely been Lich across the board. Not only because he is really good defensively in lane with the Frost Shield, but also because his Frost Shield makes pushing towers nearly impossible in the early stages of the game. And one of the things that most pro teams do now is one of the lanes loses every single game, basically, because more resources are dedicated to it. And so what pro teams will do is they will take the position 5 and they'll throw them into the lane that is being abandoned by their team, rotating all of their other heroes to the other side of the map. And then the position 5 will basically just pull the creeps off of the tower, try and get some experience and catch back up that way. Lich is basically the best hero at doing that because he gives the tower like this ridiculous damage reduction shield that slows attacks and clears the creep wave, and he doesn't even have to be remotely near there.
And it pulls the creeps too because it does damage to creeps. So it's like it doesn't really make that much sense in terms of like the mechanics of it, but he's technically doing damage to the creeps, so he's technically pulling the creeps. Also, like what you said, the fact that like there's always a losing lane, Lich is really good at making a losing lane not lose as hard as you would think because of the Frost Shield is such. It's honestly just a cock block. It's it's one of the biggest cock block abilities in Dota. It makes it's incredibly hard to actually win a lane against Lich. You can do fine in the lane. You can maybe kill the Lich, but he will prevent you from killing the core in that lane. And then, like Donnie said, when that core eventually leaves to go jungle and catch up, Lich just defends the tower. And then on top of that, he can do all of that, and without items and with just levels, he's incredibly effective in the game because his skills are very good.
Yeah, his spells are so good that he actually could have 0 farm and basically
you don't need any item.
He would have the exact same impact.
Yeah, exactly. It's really good. I would like to say though, in terms of best 5 role support, I'd say one of the most consistent 5 roles that I've personally loved for the past like year is Undying. Like I really like this Undying hero and how you can make a losing lane a winning lane. Like he's also kind of it's just no hero in Dota can really trade with an Undying, not even like a Skywrath mage. Undying is just and then very similar to Lich, unfortunately can't really defend towers as well as Lich. You don't really need any farm, and Undying is going to do the exact same thing and be very effective in the game, except he provides like potentially winning that lane. So I would say like Undying has been one of the most consistently good supports. And in terms of like new supports that people are picking, I would say Shadow Shaman is looking really good right now.
Yeah, I think 50... people are running him mostly as a 4 though, from what I've seen.
I think he's a good 5 too, though. Yep. It's like, especially if you have like,
especially because Jug is like a 40% pick rate hero at the moment. Like,
yeah, that's also
lane pair.
That also helps. Yeah, any like kill hero, Shadow Shaman's really good. Like Ursa as well would be excellent. But yeah, those are probably my three top picks. Like if you want to win pubs, it's probably those heroes. In terms of just what they can provide for like easiest learning curve. There's like specialty heroes like Rubik, kind of Grimstroke, but his win rate kind of sucks right now. Like there's other potentials in there, but those 3 are like guaranteed right now. These are great heroes.
Yep. Any other questions in the Q&A channel?
Yes. Yeah, we got a couple. So Prime Operator says, how do you think the best way to deal with the buffed Nakes and Ursa? I think both of those heroes are so good right now.
Yeah, that movement speed buff was insane.
Basically, like, well, I think the same way that you would used to deal with them, it's just that you need more of those items and you can't just skip them. It's like if you don't have a Yule Scepter and Heaven's Halberd against an Ursa, you are going to lose because he's a good hero now. It's not like it's like in games where people don't go Yules against Axe. If you don't have Yules against Axe on the team that's against Axe, you deserve to lose to the Axe. Like that's how important it is, in my opinion. So I really think the way to deal with those heroes is the exact same way as before. You focus on kiting them. That's still an issue for them. It's just that since they're so much harder to kite, given their movement speed, you have to actually commit to it no matter what. You can't just shut them down in the early game, and that because they will eventually come back because they're way harder to kite. Like they're just better heroes now. So you have to get these items. Heaven's Halberd, Atos, any kiting items will do, essentially.
Yeah, the interesting thing about these heroes is that the reason that they were out of the meta was not because of their like glaring weaknesses. Lifestealer has very low armor and he gets completely destroyed by high armor heroes. He's like absolute shit against Terrorblade, for example.
And against Ursa.
Yeah, and he's bad against Ursa. He's pretty awful against like Morphling. He's pretty awful against these heroes that just do very high physical damage. I just was recently watching the Dream League, and Lifestealer was getting shredded by a like Slardar plus Weaver combo with Desolator. Like he just evaporated against that combo. The reason that Lifestealer was so terrible is not because he was bad against physical damage. It's because he was kiteable. So essentially, the only thing that's really been changed about these heroes is that they are significantly less kiteable than they were before. Ursa, still awful against purges, dispels. Enchantress destroys Ursa. Oracle, really good against Ursa. He has a disarm and a purge. These PL, really good against Ursa because Ursa can't deal with PL, Like these kind
and it makes sense because they didn't buff anything about these heroes' abilities.
Yeah.
They just gave them more movement speed. So nothing has changed in terms of what counters them anymore. It's just they're harder to counter in terms of at least the kiting because the movement speed helps with the kiting.
Yeah, basically they were just made to be not complete ass by like being unplayable because they were too slow to catch anybody.
Yep. As for like laning counters, once again, I think it's the same thing. I think that's pretty big reason that we're seeing Razor picked up a lot right now. The Dream League Major. Razor is amazing in lane against Ursa, Lifestealer, and Sven, 3 broken heroes. They also happen to be the heroes that got 15 movement speed each. Legion's also good, not getting picked that much, but I'm sure she's good. So yeah, basically this is one of those points where like these heroes just got buffed in a very general way. So therefore, certain heroes that weren't in the meta before are going to come into the meta because sure, Razor's not good against Terrorblade, for example. Terrorblade's still good, but if there's a lot of Lifestealers and Svens, etc., being picked, then Razor is all of a sudden really good.
Yep, I highly expect to also see heroes like Chaos Knight come into the meta because he's good against those. Elder Titan will continue to be good because he's good against both those heroes. We're gonna see, I think, to be honest, Visage is fairly good against those heroes just because of the stuns.
The summons and stuns, yeah.
I think that Wyvern is going to be getting a massive boost in pick rate and play because Wyvern is very good against both those heroes. And
Weaver.
Yeah, Weaver.
Doesn't get kited at all.
Yep, and Enigma is another one that I think we're going to see a lot of play. in the near
Counter
future.
initiate on those like bullshit fast heroes that have the get out of jail free cards of the Ursa Enrage or the Lifestealer magic community.
Plus, Enigma just kind of crushes those heroes in lane, right? Because
It's true. And if you build into like a Dawn build or anything like that, it's just like so many summons for them to deal with, and they just literally can't.
Yeah.
They can't deal with them. Okay, so Turtle says, when watching high MMR/pro replays, what should I be thinking of / looking out for to learn from how they play and see the game so I can apply things they do in my game? So what I would recommend in terms of watching these replays is you need to go into them with a purpose. Like, if you feel like you struggle at laning, at last sitting, at keep getting denied on range creeps or whatever it is, focus on why the pros aren't missing range creeps. Like, if you really feel like there's something in Dota, it's like, fuck, this keeps happening to me, go into the replays and figure out why it's not happening to pros. Because I guarantee you, anything that you feel like keeps happening to you is most likely not happening to pros, because if there's some bullshit that's happening in Dota, they have figured out, or they've looked and found out how somebody deals with it. That's kind of the way that I see like the competitive games and pros in general. It's just like, these people are the aggregation of so many facts of, here's something somebody figures out how to do in Dota. These guys are dedicating every day of their lives to studying and learning Dota. So therefore, like, if you look at the pros, they will have asked the same question as you and solved it, but you still need to ask the question because then you'll actually know what to look for. It won't just look like this perfectly played game where you don't really know why it's played perfectly. It's more like you need to know what you're fucking up first to fix it. So like watching high MMR/pro replays isn't going to do much for you unless you actually know what it is that you want to look for and fix. Because otherwise, like, you might be just watching things where they do the right thing, you do the right thing, and you're not learning anything because you're both just doing stuff right. Like, you won't be looking at the things that they do right that you don't do right, essentially.
Yeah, that question was so general that it just kind of speaks to the fact that you're kind of just looking for like a magic bullet instead of actually doing a little bit of research into your own game and figuring out like what your issues are. And I know that there's this sort of like, there's an issue because there's so much that maybe you just don't know that you're not doing correctly, but at the same time, don't let that dissuade you from trying to figure it out. Like, do a little bit of kind of self-referral, a little bit of research, maybe look at your replays, look at the pro replays, and just see if you notice differences. Because, maybe sometimes maybe you're a really good laner. That certainly seems to be the case if you're beating Jenkins 1v1 mid. But he
didn't beat me. FYI, he didn't beat me. He almost beat me.
You probably just really, really suck at transitioning from the laning stage to the mid game and late game.
To give an example of something that I once looked for that like improved my game a lot in terms of like pro replays is, I would always so for a while cutting the creep waves was the thing. Like, you would cut on, and then they changed it so that like the first wave you couldn't cut it. And I was just thinking, like, how the fuck do I kept feeding when I was trying to cut the wave, and then eventually I'd cut it, but sometimes that would lose me games, sometimes it wouldn't happen, but a lot of the time I would feed trying to cut the wave. And I actually like specifically was like, all right, I need to watch for the moment that they cut the wave, because I don't know what it is that they're doing that I'm not. And I mean, I was just running behind the tower and cutting the wave. It's like, for all I know, I was doing everything right. It felt like I was doing everything right. And then I watched, it's like, oh, so what they have is they have a support go to the first wave and sit with them and like help them essentially cut the wave. Do they run through the tower? Do they run around the trees to cut the wave? They would run around the trees, and as they do that, the support would stay in the lane, essentially distracting. And then it happened at a certain point where support started cutting the wave. But essentially, like, there was a point where there was a communication between the two heroes in the lane where that first wave of experience would not be wasted because the support would be there. The support would be there distracting people, and then the offlaner would go to cut the wave. Or alternatively, you would see like the support and the offlaner would use spells in the first wave, pushing it in, which allows them to run through the tower to cut the wave. But like, it was a serious question that I had, because like that one moment was losing me so many games, like probably 2 to 3 games out of like every 20 games that I played, which is a lot of MMR that you could be losing just because I was dying in the early game trying to cut the wave. And then all of a sudden there's a level 3 carry and I'm level 2, and it's way harder for me to cut the wave. Like, that would snowball me out of control in a lot of games where I just fucking feed and lose. And it was literally that one point where it's like, all right, how do they literally cut the first wave without dying? How do they do that? And I saw like 4 or 5 different ways that I learned to do, and it's like I had no fucking idea. I thought it was this simple thing. You just run behind the tower and cut the wave, right? But no, it's not this simple thing. And I didn't know that it was simple or complicated. I had no idea of how complicated or simple it was because I wasn't asking the question. That's like the important part. Is like find something in your gameplay that you just consistently fuck up, and then look at how people have solved that in terms of like pros. And there will be a bunch of solutions, and you'll need to learn them. But once you've solved it, like you'll no longer make that mistake. That could be the only mistake that's keeping you from going to the next medal. Like it's very possible. Okay. Anyway, so let's see. That was Turtle. We have LA. LA's just making some comments. Okay, so we're done with questions for now, unless you want to do like one from chat.
Yeah, let's do a speed round from chat. Let's do like 10-word answers. Okay. Chat, go ahead, ask your questions for the next 1 minute, and Jenkins and I will try and speed through as many of them as possible. Oh, bye, Jenkins.
My God.
Bye, Jenkins.
This needs to stop happening. What's going on? All right, can you see me? Whoa, that's dark.
Yeah.
I'm in a cave. Okay.
Okay. We'll start answering questions in 15 seconds.
Okay. Am I asking the questions or are you asking the questions?
I mean, I can just read the chat.
Okay.
All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Entering the speed round. How to win mid.
Push the enemy behind their tower and fucking cut the wave. Deny range creeps. I don't know.
Thoughts on Medusa? Overrated hero at this point. Got destroyed by her talents, but could still be good in the late game depending on how the pace of the game is.
Good at 25, not good otherwise.
How do you deal with teammates who clearly don't understand your team's win condition and the enemy's win condition?
Ignore them. Try your hardest to communicate, but then ignore their bullshit.
What do you think of Timbersaw this patch in any role, just in terms of the passive changes?
Good hero.
Is first pick Pudge still good? Was it ever good?
No.
Worst hero in 721.
Pudge.
Favorite hero lore wise? Shadowfiend.
Keeper of the Light.
Haven't even read his lore. What's the safest way to farm your enemy if your enemy has significant map control? In their jungle.
Farm their jungle. Cut waves.
Yep. Is ranked roles viable to calculate? Absolutely, unless you are in like the divine bracket.
I have no idea.
Is Lion mid viable? No.
Yes.
Are you saying he is viable?
Yes.
Okay. No question. Just want to thank you guys for the greatest material you've been providing in the last months. We love you too, Daniel Porto.
You're welcome.
Will we see Pudge in competitive matches?
No.
Drow support? Question mark.
No.
Thoughts on Alchemist Radiance and Octarine? Hasn't that always been the build?
It's good, but the worse. It's worse now.
Who's better, Jenkins or Elevated? Jenkins is better at Dota. I'm better at sex.
Well, you ask your mom.
What do you think about Luna support? I think it's a great idea.
I think it's okay. Or build auras. Good at laning.
How to secure the enemy jungle? Ward their shrine.
Ward their shrine in like one jungle entrance. Try to get it closest to their base as possible, because the way the map spreads out, you'll get the most vision that way.
Yep. How do you gain MMR playing support? By enabling your teammates to have better games than the other team supports are enabling their cores to have good games.
Pick a hero that has control over the game.
When was the last time you got laid?
Like a week ago. Donnie was in Colorado, so I paid his mom a visit.
Yeah, 2 days ago. Okay.
All right.
Who's the biggest sleeper of the patch?
Morphling.
Interesting.
Maybe. Phoenix.
Is Lycan still a sleeper hero?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Lycan's a sleeper hero.
I say Lycan then. How do I get my kids back? All right, and we're going to cut it right there. Thank you guys for tuning in to Alchemy Answers episode 19. We'll see you next week. But if you want to tune in for a replay review, we'll see you on Thursday. I've been streaming my calibration matches in the morning as well, and you can check me out on Twitch at Alchemy Elevated.
I don't think I gave a single good answer in the speed round just because it's too fucking quick. Holy shit.
That's fine.
Worst hero in Dota, Pudge. God.
All right. We'll see you guys later.